Yeah, good. As a matter of fact, I worked as a video editor and cameraman and stuff for like more than 10 years. I
Oh
also worked
wow,
with yeah, I worked for the International Ice Hockey Federation. A lot of
wow.
Canadians
Nice.
colleagues. Yeah,
Oh, there were
tended.
a lot of Canadian colleagues. You don't say with
Yeah.
hockey. Yeah.
Oh, we'll stay out late to gasturbate and hang out with our friends. We'll share a few good microbrews, the good times never end. From seaside to the mountains, we'll travel many lands. Eateth of their pub cuisine and hear their local bands. We'll drink it from a bottle in a can or what's on tap. We'll rage brew as we do with fairness and a map. Spirits are up, we'll fill our cup, the wind is in our sails. We'll drunkenly mix metaphors and travel happy trails.
Welcome back to Hoppy Trails, a show where we don't just stick around the United States. We cross over oceans, we cross over borders, we are international, and we're out here to bring the world to you, right into your ear holes.
And into your eye holes as well this time around.
That's right, into your eye holes, which some of our patrons will be seeing right now, and the rest of you, you're missing out on.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Travis, and we actually have a very special guest with us today, somebody that you've been listening to all of our episodes. You've heard his voice before, but very happy to have him on here today. And a special guest, please introduce yourself.
Hey, hi everybody. Matteo from Milan, Italy. Well, there's actually not that much to say. Just a regular guy loving beer, and that would be it. Yeah.
Regular guy loving beer. That's what we are. That's what we
That's our
started this
MO.
show about. And yeah, here we go. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, guys. So nice to be here.
So, for everybody who's been listening and the patrons will be seeing, this is the first time everybody's getting a good look at us. Nick, there's your studio there, which I've seen many times. Nick, what's that behind you there that everyone can see?
This?
Not up on the shelf, but down below.
This right behind me.
Yep.
Yes, that's my little
Yep.
beer fridge. One of my beer fridges. This is my
Yeah.
office fridge that I only keep a few in. And then the main fridge is downstairs in the garage, along with a bunch of other fridges. So
Yeah,
lots
and
of fridges.
if you take a look at that fridge, the one downstairs and the table behind him, you will notice that it is absolutely covered in beer labels. And a lot of people post those up and, hey, take a look at my label collection on my fridge and what have you. Nick has one of the most impressive collections I have ever seen.
Yes. Maybe. We'll see. I've been running out of refrigerator space, so I got this little card table behind me, which just finished filling up the top of the card table. I'm going to have to buy a new card table because I still have at least another 30 labels.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really like doing the whole beer label collage stuff. I'm just scared of at some point my refrigerators will probably die and they'll be covered in beer labels and I won't have those beer labels anymore. So I need to figure out something to
That will
backup
be
plan.
the day that Nick starts a junkyard and saves all of his fridges, and he'll have to buy a junkyard as an excuse to have all these dead fridges covered in stickers.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think my wife would appreciate that very much, but if it has to do with beer, I could probably talk her into it. So
yeah. Well, Matteo, so, talking about beer labels, we are not super familiar with beer in Italy. Now, you and I, we ran into each other on Reddit on a beer subreddit.
True.
You had posted a picture of a beer, and I thought, look, either this brewery is shipping to the United States, which would be amazing, or this guy's over there, and I need to find out more.
Yeah, it turned out that actually I think they don't ship to the US, I'm afraid.
Understandable.
No, I mean, the point is that, of course, I mean, I think a part of a couple of craft breweries in Italy, which are very, very big and probably also the oldest ones. Most of the breweries here are really, really small. I mean, of course, leaving outside of the whole thing, big industrial breweries like probably some you may already have heard of, like Moretti or those kind of. But I mean,
Yeah.
these are like big industrial breweries. To be honest, I really think that really not good quality. Apart from that, of course, all the other breweries we have are really, really small. some of them actually limit their production to small yearly amount of brews, so that they can ensure the best quality, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. We're absolutely going to want to hear quite a bit about the craft beer scene there, because I think a lot of our American listeners, it's funny, we are very American centric in our thinking a lot of times, and so we think of the craft beer growth as kind of an American thing, and of course it's happening worldwide, but we don't really think that way. So it's going to be great to hear about how that's been going in Italy and like that. Now, before we jump into it, I would like to talk about some food. Now,
Nice.
for those of you who are watching the video, you may see I'm wearing a shirt that is covered in tacos. Okay. And there's a reason for that. And that is because yesterday was my daughter Drew Francis's second birthday party. And so we had a Taco Tuesday party, right? Tuesday. Very clever.
You dad joker.
That was Stephanie's idea. She came up with that. And so we did birria tacos. And I love making birria. Matteo, do you guys have birria over there in Italy?
No, I'm afraid not. Well, what is
Okay.
that?
Yeah, birria is so it's a stewed shredded meat that you then put into the tacos, and the tortilla is dipped in the consomme before you throw it on a flat top, put the meat, the cheese in there, fold it up, grill it up real nice, and then you serve it with more of the juice, the consomme, so that people can dip their taco in there for the extra delightful flavor.
I feel like a distant relative of birria might be like a ragu.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
In spirit, yes. In spirit, very similar to a ragu. The way that I did the consomme is it uses dried chilies, a lot of various herbs, spices, things like that, and then it also has carrots, onions, and tomatoes. And I simmer those to make the sauce, blend it up so that it's a smooth sauce, and then put the meat in there and simmer for 3 to 4 hours until it's nice and tender and shreddy. So very similar roots or very similar style to a ragu. Yeah.
And typical cut of beef that's used. Well, actually, traditionally, birria is they use goat for it. Here in the U.S., obviously, goat's not as popular, so they're using beef, either short rib meat or like a chuck roast, which is also close to the rib meat area. And basically, it's the slow braise process that, like Travis said, in the end, it's a very nice shredded meat. That it when in all of its juices and everything, that's with all the spices, it's an excellent thing. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Sounds delicious, that's for sure.
Yeah. I did two whole untrimmed tri-tips. I did a little trimming on them first because at untrimmed they come with quite a bit of fat.
Excellent.
I did 2 of those, and then also a lamb shoulder to get a little bit of that richness from the lamb, a nice grass-fed lamb, so it had a lot of the flavor.
Picture you sent the other day.
Yes, it was. Yeah, there was about 9-10 pounds of meat in there.
The way that all
up.
the meat together was in that plastic bag, and the bag kind of adding a cloudiness to it. It was just like, oh, that's a bag of mystery meat. But it's good mystery meat.
Yeah. Now, Matteo, do you all have the tri-tip as a cut of beef?
Well, the cuts in Italy are quite different. To be honest, when I came to the US the first time, I really had to rethink completely the way I interpreted the different cuts. Butchers here have a completely different mental map of
Yes.
yeah, of the beast. So yeah, that's how it is. But I know what tri tip is, and I really love it. And to be honest, actually, American BBQ style really amazed me. Like, it was like a complete revelation, I have to be honest.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, and the tri-tip originated in popularity here in California, where I'm located, and then it started spreading. So it's not even really common all the way throughout the U.S., although it's becoming more common because because it's amazing.
Like
But yeah,
like Travis mentioned, there's a very legit huge history of tri-tip from the city or town of Santa Maria in California. It's down by Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo area, to the point where even they have a specific type of grill called the Santa Maria grill that tri-tips are traditionally grilled on. And then on top of that, you have your Santa Maria um, rub or marinade that traditionally tri-tips are marinated in. So there's a whole background of the Santa Maria tri-tip and everything. But it's always been an excellent cut of beef. It's just, of course, it's not as popular elsewhere. It's gaining popularity. I feel like it's moving up towards the Pacific Northwest as well. But I belong to barbecue groups, and I people are like, what's tri-tip? Like and they're from Midwest or East Coast. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I could just ship tri-tip everywhere. But
so you said that the American style of barbecue is something that definitely opened your eyes. But it's again so funny because we think in this very American centric way that we think the idea and concept of barbecue is an American thing, which it's not. Our style of barbecue certainly is, but there's forms of a similar cooking method everywhere in the world. I mean, starting off cooking meat over fire, right? I mean, that was the way. How is it in Italy? What is the method of barbecue that you use there? What's the popular cut?
So, well, actually, I think like the real core of every barbecue in Italy is actually uh, sausages and not beef cuts. I have to be honest with that. There are different styles, of course, around Italy. Like in the south, they prefer like some kind of long and thin sausages.
Yeah,
Here in the north, we have the salamella, which is almost round-ish kind of thing, a bit
yeah,
bigger. And then you just split in two. Not even cut. You just do a little cut on one side, and then you just split it and crash it on the grill.
yeah,
But all in all, I mean, of course, we also love chicken a lot, ribs, of course, more pork ribs than beef ribs. And then, uh, yeah, these kind of stuff basically. But the style here is very, very simple. Like you just put some olive oil, some rosemary, some herbs, spices. I don't know. They're almost like not known in Italy. I really can't tell why, but that's how it is. So like every dad, of course, pretends to be like the best expert in the world. So everybody has to go, and it's like, okay,
that's
come here, son. I'll
international,
show
man.
you. Yeah, of course. And of course, that's how my dad also used to do. But yeah, that's how it is. Just just put some meat on the fire, just a bit of oil, and that's it.
Yeah,
And then, I mean, when I came to the US and I tried, well, the BBQ you guys have, wow. I really was amazed because of all the spices, the slow cooking. I had this uncle who, like 20 years ago, brought a Weber grill to
yeah,
Italy. One of the
classic.
first. Then actually they started to ship to Italy at some point regularly. But he worked a lot in South America, and he discovered the Weber grill, and then he found a way. He found a way to have it shipped to Italy at some point more than 20 years ago, and he was like so proud because you see, son, actually you can put the. You can close it and have it, slow cooking your meat and stuff. He was
Yeah.
That was
Oh, that's
nice.
amazing. That's so great. The Weber, I mean, Nick, come on. Hey,
it's so
everybody growing up
universal.
here,
Yeah.
classic. That's what that's almost the icon of barbecuing when we were children was the Weber kettle.
Yeah.
That's what you think of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
But anyway, don't get me wrong. I really love like barbecue, but as I said, I don't know why, but it's just a simple thing. Actually, when me and my wife got married, we had like, instead of a regular, like wedding party, we just had a barbecue
yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
with a big
Always a good
bonfire.
way.
Yeah, with a big bonfire and everybody staying around. So yeah, that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Very cool.
outstanding.
That's my kind of wedding. I like that. Not that my wedding was bad at or anything like that, but I like the idea of barbecue and bonfire.
Nick, what was the beef option at your wedding? What was the beef we had?
It was tri-tip.
Damn right it was.
Tri-tip and salmon.
Tri-tip and salmon.
Yeah, that was all kinds of delicious food. But
I had heaping plates, let me tell you.
Yes. Enough for everybody to go back for seconds and thirds. But
I'd like to actually ask you about Iberico pork. Is it Iberico or Iberico? That's you know what? Or is that Spain? I'm thinking of Spain. Yep. That's okay. My fault. So do you have an Italian thought on Spanish pork? I don't know why I'm asking you that.
What I can say, they're really big. I mean, I think that they're probably the biggest producer of pork meat in Europe. So there are actually more pigs than actual people in Spain.
I believe.
I read somewhere.
Which is probably why pork ribs are more popular for you.
Yeah,
in Italy.
That could also be. But of course, I mean, it is quite famous here, quite known. The Iberico ham. But if you ask any regular Italian guy, everybody would say that actually the Parma prosciutto crudo, which is like dry ham, so it's not cooked.
Yeah.
It's like way better, and I tend to agree with that.
Yeah. Excellent.
I'm not the kind of guy who always says local is better. And that's actually how every Italian guy is about food. They always say, everybody say, no, we do it better. Everything just tastes better here. I'm not that kind of person, to be honest. I grew up in a quite international situation, so I really love, like to travel, try new things and stuff. But if we're talking about prosciutto, about ham, no, I'm quite sure that what they make in Parma is the best actually.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Excellent. Well, you heard it here from Matteo. Parma ham is the absolute best in the world. Stamp it, no question. If anybody disagrees, we'll give you Matteo's contact information.
You can bet on that, yeah.
I will fight on behalf of Matteo. So
that's right. That's right. We'll be on a plane over there. We've got your back. Nick, what about you? What are you cooking, my man?
Let's see here. Last night, so a week ago, I went out to a new smokehouse / butcher shop, a little small town about 45 minutes east of me. And they had, I went because I heard that they had some American Wagyu steaks. So I got a American Wagyu rib steak and then 2 little cuts of Denver steaks. And nice. So I cooked those up last night just because they'd been sitting on them for about a week. And thanks to Instagram, I saw some kind of, it was on a baguette, but yesterday we went to a local country mill and bakery and we got this really nice sourdough round. So I took off a couple slices of sourdough. And then meanwhile, I was caramelizing some onions. That was like easily for like an hour. Add a little bit of marsala and a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, sauce. And then what was the other thing? Oh, and I did garlic confit and olive oil with some rosemary. And that was going in the oven for like 2 hours. I just saw this Instagram reel and it was like, I don't know, 3 hours before dinner time. And I was like, okay, well, I need like 2 hours to do this garlic confit. And so I just got up and started kind of going to work. And so garlic confit, caramelized onions, some chopped up chives, that got mixed into a half a cup of butter. And then once that was all nice and mixed together, that got spread across the slices of sourdough that I sliced up. And then I grated some Parmesan cheese on top of that. And that went into the toasting oven and toasted that up and got the Parmesan all nice and melted up on top.
Yeah.
And then we just had I sliced up the steaks and just ate some steak slices with this this nice toasted sourdough bread with a concoction that I put on there. And
Beautiful.
yeah, it was pretty tasty.
Man, that compound butter sounds nice.
Yeah. I just in general, I'm gonna make more of that just so that I have it on hand. To use it on whatever I see fit. But
Yeah.
that was killer. Yeah. The only thing is now I have this jar of confit oil. I might, I don't know, use it for something else. We'll have to figure it out, but I'm sure it has a lot of garlic essence in it now. It's probably just
Oh,
garlic
yeah.
olive oil. So,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, no, that turned out really well last night.
Beautiful. Oh, that
Yeah.
sounds outstanding. Outstanding.
Definitely.
Now, and for everybody out there, I'm sure everybody's heard of Wagyu. But there's American Wagyu, there's the Japanese. There, I mean, what is significant about American versus other? What are we talking about when we say that, Nick?
Well, Wagyu comes from Japan. So that's your traditional Wagyu. And then they have their whole quality grading system and everything based off of the fat marbling content throughout the muscle. We also have that grading system here in the US. It's the USDA grade system, select, choice, or prime. There's other lower ones, but typically you won't see them in stores because they're just putting that grade of meat into animal feed.
Animal feed in prisons. That's where that goes.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for real. You thought that was a joke. It's not dark humor. For real.
So like
below that is for prisons.
Yeah, but typically like here in the US, your prime grade will have nice intramuscular fat marbling and everything. And then you have your American Wagyu, which is a specific breed of cattle that they've, I guess, have bred based off of Wagyu cows, because that's a type of cattle as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess a means of how they raise that cattle. So while it's not as intramuscular marbling as regular Wagyu, it's still a considerable amount that you would find in the American Wagyu. I wish I had taken some pictures. It is what it is. I just was really excited to get them onto the cast iron. But they were very nice marbling. I'm probably going to go back and buy more this week from that place that I got them from, just because they turned out really well. But yeah, no.
Excellent.
Basically, the American Wagyu, what you're getting is very nice fat marbling within that muscle. And fat
and that
flavor.
makes it just a like super tender,
very tender,
buttery. I mean, yeah.
You can have a dull knife and it'll just cut through that meat like butter.
Yes. Yeah, so optimal if you're having it on a sandwich or something like that, but end of the day, delicious beef flavor. You don't want to cover it up too much, just kind of enhance. Yeah, it sounds like you had an excellent dinner, Nick.
Yes, this is very good. Can't wait to make it again. So should be good.
Yeah, that's the problem with looking at Instagram. Especially when it's before dinner, is suddenly you're, okay, well, looks like I've got a project now because I must have this thing that I just watched.
Yes. Inspiration gram.
But Matteo, do you do a lot of cooking yourself?
Yes, I do. Well, as a matter of fact, my my wife actually works outside while I'm quite lucky. I can work from home like almost 4 days a week.
Yeah.
That's the life.
So yeah, I mean the duty is up to me, definitely. Also this evening I'm taking care of of that. There's no escape. Either you find a way, or you just go on with trash food and well.
Yeah, and Matteo, we're over here. It's about 10:30 in the morning for Nick and I. What time is it there for you?
Almost dinner time. It's around 7:30.
7:30. Okay, and so you've got some
PM,
dinner cooking right now, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And actually, in 10 minutes, I really need to check what's going on in the oven.
Well, what are you making?
Nothing fancy. No, nothing fancy this evening. Actually, meatloaf with chicken and turkey meat. Some spinach and Parmesan cheese in the middle to give some kind of green marbling.
Ooh,
yes.
all right.
But super simple. Really, nothing really special.
So is this one where you like did you flatten the meat out, put the spinach and parmesan, and then roll it, or how'd you do it? So it's kind of a
No, no,
spiral.
it is actually ground meat. So ground chicken and turkey meat with some pork in it to make it more, greasy and tasty.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then yeah, just some like minced spinach, grated parmesan.
So it mixed
Uh,
directly into the meat.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
This
So
is
it
a
gives some kind of green marbling,
Yeah.
very cool.
and you just put it in the oven. It's something really,
Oh, I'm gonna
really
have to try
easy.
this out now.
Right.
This sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if you had like traditional American meatloaf where it's usually just ground
no,
meat
never.
and ketchup put on top as like a glaze. It's very basic.
Yeah.
Yours, quite the opposite. I would say it's a very gourmet
No, we're on a diet.
meatloaf.
I mean, my wife is. Huh?
I
if
honestly,
she's gonna hear to this episode, probably she's gonna kill me. But so we're trying to staying light. No,
but
okay, I'm quite fit to be honest. But she asked me to try to cook on the light side. So yeah.
Yeah.
no, that
And
sounds
then we're
great.
having some how do you call them? String beans, green beans,
Yes,
Yeah.
just super simple, boiled with, and then when they're still hot, with some like apple vinegar,
Yeah.
red onions, bit of pepper,
Yeah.
oil
excellent.
again, of course, olive oil everywhere.
Yeah.
Since we're in
Now,
Italy,
so
of course.
you boil them and then with the vinegar, you're kind of pan frying them,
No, no,
or
no, no, no,
oh,
no.
okay,
Actually, you just boil them, then you dry them.
okay,
You put them in a bowl once they're still hot.
okay.
You put the apple vinegar, so the alcohol kind
Oh,
of evaporates.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
And when you put also the oil, and then you just stir them a bit, they become a bit creamy.
Yeah.
Very
Actually, I think
nice.
it's like the acid part of the vinegar mixing with the oil, so they become a bit creamy.
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
That's super simple,
Nick,
like
that
maybe
is a
10 minutes.
use for your garlicky oil that you've got there, man. Sounds like it'd be
I guess
right at
so.
home.
I guess so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so funny. I hear you saying like, all right, so we're doing a lighter meatloaf, chicken and turkey. Of course, we had some pork in there because you have to, and I absolutely love it. It's like, yeah, I mean, you have to make it stick together to keep it juicy like that. Um, it's so funny. My wife's late great aunt, who a couple of years ago passed, she was in her mid-90s. She's been around forever, and she was a foodie too. And so I asked her one time. I said, every time I try to make vegetable soup, it always it's lacking. It's just not good. What do you do to make your vegetable soup? Like, how do you make it just good and have that sustenance? Just, well, the first thing you have to start is with a beef bone. Like, oh yeah, of course. Your vegetable soup must start with a beef bone. It's like, yeah, man, your turkey and chicken meatloaf. I mean, you got to put some ground pork in there, obviously. I love it.
It can't always be veggies.
That's right. That's right. You got to have some goodness in there too, man.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I have
Excellent.
a question for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I recall that once on Reddit I stumbled into some kind of map showing like weird foods from around the world. And for Italy, I don't know why. Definitely that was not made by an Italian, but for Italy, the weird food of choice was horse steaks, which we actually
Interesting.
had yesterday for dinner.
Horse steaks.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
exactly,
I
exactly.
personally have never had horse, but I've always been curious.
It's
Which
in the United States, it's illegal to feed horse to people.
it is illegal. Okay,
Yeah, but
didn't
it's
Yeah.
know.
totally legal for, red dye 40 and yellow dye, whatever. Like the things that are illegal in the European Union. But
Yeah.
no, I've always been curious about horse. So you're saying that's kind of a common thing in Italy.
Uh, yeah, I would say so. I mean, you just go
Oh,
to like a regular. Yeah, I know, I know.
oh my
I was
gosh.
just curious about that.
I'm even more as if I wasn't excited enough already for our trip next year. I'm even more excited now.
My understanding is that and this is kind of where the law I think originally came from. There's currently a small problem in Florida with people's horses being snatched and eaten. And I think that there are a lot of cultures around us that eating horse is just it's like not a big deal. It's the same as, the way we think of eating a cow. But I think originally it was to prevent people from having their horses stolen, because horses were such an important tool of production. And so I think that was why it originally became illegal was, if you steal somebody's cow and eat it, they've lost a cow that they can sell. If you steal somebody's horse and eat it, now suddenly they don't have the ability to, round up their cattle or perform
Yeah.
whatever other things like that. And so I think, I believe, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that originally that's what it was about, was protecting people's tools of production. And because of that, we just have this idea that horses are, for riding and petting and ponies and what have you like that. So we just don't think of it. And I think because of that, people have a block. But I mean, for me, it's, I don't know. I would eat a horse steak. That sounds wonderful.
I would absolutely do too.
Well, the taste, I mean, the taste alone, yeah, definitely is wonderful. It's also very, how do you say that? I mean, I think it has like less than 1% of fat. So,
Yeah.
of
So
course, you
really
very
have to
lean.
know,
lean.
Yeah.
yeah, you have to know how to cook it, of course. I
Yeah.
usually rub it with some olive oil, of course,
Surprise. Yeah.
and some smoked paprika powder, and
Excellent.
yeah, super simple.
So it's
Uh,
it's typically more of a lower temperature cook, or is it
No,
like
no,
a hot
actually,
and fast?
yeah, no, exactly.
Okay.
On the iron pan, very hot, very short. You, well, we always kind of always eat it like kind of raw in the middle,
Yeah.
almost
Okay.
raw. So
Okay.
rare, yeah,
So very, very rare. Yeah.
yeah,
Now, I have to ask. So, are these horses that are raised specifically for meat, or are they horses that are at the end of their useful life for other work that are now being used for meat? Because my understanding is, if you look at the animals, the more work they've done, the tougher and gamier their meat will be, as well as
correct,
when they're older. So, is
correct.
that what are we
Um,
looking at for these horses?
Traditionally, the latter, of course. Nowadays, I heard, never checked personally, but I heard that most of actually the horse meat we get in Italy is actually coming from Poland, where they
Okay.
actually, yeah, have like big herds that are actually, I think, specifically for that. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's very interesting.
Wow.
As of now, to be honest, but probably I'm just out of my area of knowledge. I'm not aware of like horses being raised specifically for that in Italy. But nevertheless, I really can't tell why, but it is quite popular, especially like in the southern eastern part of Italy.
Yeah.
Horse meat is quite popular.
Interesting. I
Okay.
I did not try any when I was there. I didn't see it offered, and so I think I would have tried it. That was oh almost 15 years ago now that I was there. Nick, you're going to be going soon, so you may
Uh,
have to report back to us.
I wouldn't quite say soon. It'll be 11 months from now, but
Hey, sooner than
um,
me.
yeah. But
But yeah,
yeah.
in the north of Italy, actually, it is not that popular. So if you are
Okay.
gonna, yeah,
Well, our
give it a
intent
try,
is
probably
to visit like the Calabria region. So,
you'll get a chance there.
okay, cool,
Definitely.
awesome,
Yeah,
very cool.
brilliant. Absolutely. You know what? That's so crazy. I would not have even thought of that. That's something that's not even on my radar. And it's so funny that we have this list of, crazy foods and whatever. And it's like, look, it's only crazy due to these certain things, and from this perspective. But when you look at it from other places, it's like, yeah, that's really only from the American perspective. Apparently the Polish have no problem with it. I would imagine that there's other regions around Italy that are doing it as well. It's like, maybe we're the ones that are crazy for not eating horse,
Yeah, for sure. I'm I'm on board trying out any meats. I remember long ago, Travis, like you hit me up. This is years ago, and you were like, "Hey, I got some alligator. I'm gonna make
Yes,
something. Come over." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
that's right. Yeah,
I
we
can
made
always
some
count on
sauce
you for the
piquant.
weird stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do remember years ago, I used to work for Greenpeace, right? It was back when I was in school,
Ooh,
needed a
nice.
job that was not too many hours of commitment, something that I could, anyway, it's something that they paid me next to nothing, but the hours worked, so I did it. And there was a woman, a young woman that I worked with, and she was full vegan. And I remember we used to get into it from time to time because I'm a carnivore, right? That's just how it is. And so I think she asked me one time, she's like, "Well, would you eat your dog?" I was like, "No, I wouldn't eat my dog." She's like, "Well, cows and dogs, they're basically the same. They're just as intelligent, they're loving, all of this." I said, "Hold on a second. I didn't say I wouldn't eat a dog. I said I wouldn't eat my dog. Also, if I had a pet cow, I wouldn't eat that cow either, but I'd share a hamburger with it. Like, what are you talking about here? Like, just because I wouldn't eat my friend doesn't mean I wouldn't try a dog." Now, I've never eaten dog, but I understand there's a lot of places where they do. And I don't know, who knows? Maybe one day I will, maybe I never will. And we probably just lost half our listeners.
I'm not
No,
opposed.
sorry, I didn't want to bring the discussion to some kind of dead end with that.
No, it's brilliant. I love it. I love it. I wouldn't have even thought of that. But as you know here, we love food, right? And so talking about all kinds of food, we're into it.
Yeah, I was just curious about I mean, really the reaction. Genuinely, I was, yeah, just thinking that actually we had it yesterday. So,
What
Excellent.
what's a crazy American food that you hear about that you think, "Oh, those Americans are insane?"
ooh, ooh, that's a good question. I'm not really picky when it comes about food. When I travel to Africa, I actually think I eaten, yeah, almost everything that was considered edible by
Yeah.
the locals. So uh, I don't know. Yeah, any suggestion? Anything that you think it's gonna sound at least weird to a European?
So, okay, I encountered, thanks to Instagram, something recently. I was already aware of some kind of weird. It's you're familiar with chili, right? Like it's meat sauce. It's basically like meat sauce with some added spice to it. And in certain
The end.
areas,
And nothing
tra-
else is added to it ever. No, I'm
and
just
in
kidding.
other parts of the U.S., chili will not only have whatever meat, but also beans added to it.
Yeah.
Traditional chili, no beans. Universal chili with beans.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
apparently in Ohio, it's a thing where you take your chili and you put it on cooked spaghetti.
Yes. Skyline
So
chili.
chili
Mm,
and spaghetti, not just spaghetti pasta. That's it. Your chili is basically the sauce on the spaghetti. Very interesting. Then
And
this
they
recent
also
the
they
Instagram
add
reel. Oh,
cinnamon and chocolate as part of the chili as well. For
yes. Well,
Skyline
then
chili or
what I
Cincinnati
saw
chili.
recently was they basically made the chili, cooked the pasta, mixed it up, put it in a casserole dish, then put cinnamon buns on top and put it in the oven to bake them. So you
okay,
bake your
no, that
cinnamon.
would be
Exactly. Very,
probably too
Hmm.
much for me.
very weird. Yeah. Well, so in basically what it is though is it's does dinner and dessert all baked in one dish.
All served
Um,
in that, yeah.
so it's like that way there's not many dishes to do afterwards. I would assume.
Okay.
That's a strong
But
point.
I had no
This
idea, Travis,
too
about the
far.
chocolate and cinnamon being added into the chili though. But
Yes.
that it ends up kind of I feel like kind of becoming like a chili mole.
It does become like a chili mole, absolutely. And I will
So
tell you, so the first time I actually had it, my wife's Uncle Kevin and Aunt Kathy, hello, they're listeners, so hello there, shouting you out. But the Steph's Aunt Kathy makes an amazing Cincinnati chili, Skyline chili. Those are the two names it goes by. Absolutely outstanding. It's one of the best out there. I ate so much of it, I almost died that night. Absolutely outstanding. But Steph and I were thinking back to when we were in San Diego many years before, and somebody opened up a Cincinnati chili restaurant, and it went poorly because people don't like new things. And so nobody went in there. And so after maybe a year or something like that of just like not getting the customers, they closed down, but they put like a little announcement in the local paper about how they were shutting down. And man, this guy was pissed. He was like, "You people just don't know what you're missing. You wouldn't come in and open your mouth. This stuff is amazing and you would have loved it, but you wouldn't even come in and give it a chance." And it's just so fun. We were reading about it. It was before I'd ever tried it. And I'm just like, who is this guy like yelling at us for not liking his weirdo food? But it's delicious. But I will say, you put those cinnamon rolls on top. That's a bridge too far. I'm sorry that Aunt Kathy had to hear this. I'm sure this is causing her a lot of anguish. The cinnamon rolls is too far. Too
So
far.
they do the cinnamon rolls in Cincinnati as well. I thought it was more of like you go a little bit further west, more Arkansas, Nebraska, Missouri kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is where they do the cinnamon rolls on it. But I don't know. I still need to look into it a bit more. From an efficiency standpoint, it makes sense. From a flavor standpoint, I'm not sure, but I'm still curious. So,
Matteo, as our expert on all things pasta, what do you say?
No, definitely that sounds a bit too much for me. Although there are some recipes, sweet recipes with pasta, but I mean, just the idea of having something sweet put on top of something like that, no, it would be just a no-go for the average Italian. That is for sure.
I agree.
All right, so the guy that opened the restaurant in San Diego, he would be doing the same thing in Italy 1 year on, closing shop, making an announcement, shaking his fist at the Italians for not being open-minded. Is that it?
Yeah, it could go like that. Yeah.
All right, well, excellent. Let's take a quick break real quick. I know Matteo needs to go check that meatloaf, that delicious, amazing sounding meatloaf. We'll take a quick break, listen to maybe a couple of little promos or who knows, a trail report. We'll see what we've got. And when we come back, we'll talk about some beer.
Hey, so I'm here with Adam at 12 Bones Brewing in Asheville, North Carolina. Adam, tell us a little bit about the history of 12 Bones.
Okay, so the brewery opened in May of 2019. The brewery was an extension of the pre-existing smokehouse that's been around for 15 years in Asheville. Our focus is classic American craft beer. It's designed to, pair and support all the things that they do next door at the smokehouse. So you always find a wide selection of classic lagers, contemporary IPAs, and more experimental batches as we move along into our fourth year now. We opened right in time for COVID, which was a hurdle that the whole industry had to navigate, but we're still here and glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to trying it out.
Did you ever get the feeling that there was more to this world than meets the eye?
Ghosts, aliens, big feet, interdimensional spirits, cryptids, North Dakota. Well, neither have we.
So come join us as we uncover the true stories and plausible explanations behind famous paranormal urban myths.
From the perspective of skeptics.
But it's funny. We promise it's funny.
So join us in the Least Haunted Podcast, because the only thing that's haunted here is you.
Ah!
Drunkenly mixed metaphors and shallow happy trails.
And we are back. And Matteo, how was that meatloaf looking?
Looking good. We're gonna have something for dinner at least, so that's that's more than enough.
Excellent. Well, let's get into talking about beer. That's what people come here for, although they're forced to listen to us talk about food. I hope everybody's starving by now. But let's talk about some beer. Matteo, give us a general background on how you got into craft beer.
Well, okay, quite easy. Two main reasons. First, actually, one of my local pubs happened to be one of the first brew pubs open in Italy. So in around 1998, I was 16. There is no legal drinking age in Italy.
Yes.
Uh,
Very
it
nice.
was, yeah, halfway from my high school and the place where I lived with my parents, and it was, like the perfect place to hang out with friends.
Yeah.
And that happened to be actually, yeah, one of the first brew pubs in Italy. They opened the first brew pubs back in 1996. I know the craft beer scene in Italy is quite young. Definitely, it is. But that's how I, started, understanding that there was, something a bit more than the regular stuff you get into supermarkets for a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
There was definitely way more than that. And then around 10 years ago, my actual wife, who's a professional wine taster and also a professional beer taster. Well,
What?
she used to be professional. I mean, she has a degree. In Italy, it is everything is always very formal. So
Yeah.
she attended two classes. You get like some kind of formal degree in wine tasting and stuff. Then
Okay.
she had some kind of master class to become a teacher,
Wow.
and then at some point she just decided, okay, now I'm a teacher in wine tasting. Why not going to the Union Birai, which is kind of the equivalent of the brewer association you have in
Yeah.
the US, I guess.
Yeah.
They also organize classes for beer tasting, and that
Wonderful.
opened up a world for us. We just decided that, like regular beer was. I mean, of course, if you're, I don't know, like going out with friends, you can still have a regular beer, but life is too short to drink bad beer.
Yes. 100% agree.
Yeah.
So these are the two main reasons. No, actually, I also have to say that Milan is kind of a hot spot for quality craft beer. That's a matter of fact. Actually, Lombardy, our region, Milan is the capital city of Lombardy. It is actually, I think, the region where most, well, I think probably we have like that highest, like density of small breweries, brew pubs and stuff. And just to give you an idea, as I said, I made my homework. Just discovered, actually, it turns out that basically Lombardy is roughly comparable to New Jersey, to give you an idea in terms of area and population.
Yeah.
And what is fun is that there is actually a regional database for breweries and brew pubs. Turns out that we have around 240.
Oh, wow.
And according to the equivalent for New Jersey, which is some kind of association, I think they have a website. In New Jersey, there are 276. So I think probably the two scenes are roughly comparable.
Yeah.
You cannot definitely say that for the rest of Italy. Actually, in the north, there is kind of more of attention for beer, more interest.
Yeah.
Uh, doesn't get the same goes the same way in the south and central Italy. But
Okay.
here, I mean, actually, back in the late 90s, it all started. It all started at some point. The first brew pub started to, open their business, and the first two probably were Birrificio Italiano and Birrificio Baladin, which are, I think, the only two that you are quite you are quite able to find outside Italy, maybe also in the US.
Very
I think
cool.
I think they're also shipping to the US probably. They're quite big, especially the Baladin is definitely now big, and that one is also interesting because they are a farm brewery, so they actually grown their own hops and malts. This is a kind of format that is actually developing a lot in Italy, farm
Wow.
breweries. Because also of the law, they actually have some, I don't know, like they have lower taxes probably. This is actually something that is developing a lot. But I mean, all in all, I think that, of course, I mean, it's quite young scene, but I think probably also because of that, because of the kind of lack of tradition there is a lot more freedom, experimenting and doing stuff. You cannot say that, for instance, in Germany, of course, big country for beer, Germany.
Yes. I've heard
Uh,
that before. Yeah, someone mentioned that once.
but
Yeah.
the tradition there is kind of, I don't know, maybe preventing. Now, of course, probably all the German listeners would start on uprising for what I'm saying.
Yeah, a bunch of
And
German listeners just yelling "Scheiße," taking their headphones off.
yeah,
Yeah.
most probably. But yeah, no, like far north, like in Denmark, the scene is really interesting right now. 2 months ago, we went for a 2 weeks beer tour in Central Northern Europe.
Oh
My wife
wow.
and I. Denmark really, yeah, got my attention, and
Yeah.
also Czechia.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, but of course, nothing tastes like home. And well, what I can say, come to Milan. The breweries here are really, really good.
Yeah.
There are a lot of interesting styles. Well, mostly the styles are uh, following, I think, the big international trends, at least compared to what we have in Europe. And
Yeah.
these are basically three. So German, or like, yeah, German and Czech inspired styles,
Hmm.
pils, lagers, and so.
Sure.
Belgian styles,
Yep.
uh,
Excellent.
especially back in the late 90s, early years of this century. I think the Belgian styles probably were the most followed, the most imitated.
Yeah.
And then around 10, 15 years ago, the first like American style brews started to also to yeah, come out in Italy.
So
And
more
I
of more
think
of like the hoppy styles, your pale ales, your IPAs, and things of that nature.
exactly.
Yeah.
And right now, everyone who's starting a new business in craft beer are trying to go in that direction, like
Yeah.
exactly, extremely hoppy ales, pale ales of every kind of style.
Yeah.
And but to be honest, that opened up a world for me. I mean, I have to be honest that these are probably the styles I appreciate the most.
Yeah.
I have actually some favorite styles also, when it comes about European styles. The goes. I don't know if you ever heard or tried goes
Yes.
Oh
style
yeah.
beers.
Absolutely.
Uh, because they're really something on their own. They're salty. They're refreshing. I love them. And also lambics, or more in general, sour beers are actually my hype right now. I must say that.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
have a lot
Now
of those here.
that's 100%. That's sours are very popular. Both the wild and the kettle sours and like that. Very big here right now. So that's outstanding. I love it.
Yeah, in Europe we have the lambic style, which is I think probably the original sour style,
Hmm.
but you cannot actually make it everywhere, because to brew a lambic, you don't need a tank. You need like some kind of open pool where you just left everything fermenting for like weeks,
Yes. And it's
and
open to the
so
environment, and yeah.
exactly. They
Yeah.
actually had to change the European laws to allow abbeys and monks to still, producing beers with that style. So of course,
Yeah.
this is actually something you cannot do outside of abbeys and so on. But in Italy, actually, we're starting now to have a new style, which is mostly a sour style. And I
Mhm.
think probably is the only Italian style I can think, I mean, proper Italian style I can think of. And it also has Italian in the name, which is the IGA,
Okay.
Italian Grape Ale. Because actually my region is not that big with wine. But in some of the other regions, like in central Italy, for example, they're starting to experiment, and actually it is now a style which had their own like awards, with the Union Birai Beer of the Year award we always have every year in Italy. There are three categories, like red IGAs
Mhm.
with like red grapes, white IGAs, and actually they look like a regular sour beer, so it doesn't get much, like kind of color from the grape,
Yeah.
and sours. And these are actually my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
these
that's
are also
great.
really
I'm
interesting.
really
Yeah,
excited now. I
Yeah,
can't wait to
I
try
know.
these.
but
I want to try it.
yeah, you must definitely give it a try, yeah, because I mean it's something quite different. It's kind of developing, and well, something you cannot probably get to find anywhere else.
You know that it makes me think of, and I can't remember who was doing it, the Noble Rot. So it was Noble and then ROTT, I believe, that I had. I can't even remember when it was, but I always remember it. And I think they did it with, I want to believe it was,
Which is
yeah,
also interesting because up until now, actually, everybody was just, as I said, kind of imitating or just brewing, according to international styles. And this is also interesting. But anyway, an interesting thing: the Beer of the Year award was just, I think, I mean, awards actually. They're more up to 30, I think. Were just were just held, I think, 1 month ago. So
yeah,
I just had to look at the whole chart of like awarded beers, and there is really one I need to mention, made by a local brewery in Monza, which is a city which is, I don't know, like 10 minutes away from Milan.
yeah.
And I was actually there last week. The brewery is called Carrobiolo,
Okay.
and they got an award for a stout they brew. It is called the Porcini Stout
Ooh,
with actual porcini
Porcini
mushroom.
mushrooms.
wow.
And yeah, and it's really a blast, I must say that.
Yeah,
Yes.
Nick's a very big stout fan. I don't get me wrong, I love my stouts. Nick, what are you thinking about porcini mushroom stout?
I honestly, I feel like I'm a bigger mushroom fan than I am a stout fan. So, I mean, like, I don't get me wrong, I love stouts. As I've aged, things are a bit sweeter to me, and stouts are, typically on the sweet side, or at least most stouts these days. But I like the idea of a porcini mushroom stout, because I feel like that'd be more on the savory, earthy side of things. So another one that hopefully I can find when we're over there and give it a whirl.
Yeah,
That
did you
sounds
get a
amazing.
chance to try that one, Matteo?
Yeah, I did. I was there 1 or 2 weeks ago. We were having a bachelor party. One of my best friends, who is actually also friend with the owner of the pub, said, okay, why don't we just go there for a beer? I'm getting married in a, well, in a matter of a week.
Yeah.
And yeah, I gave it a try. Yeah, they also have like a an outrageous barley wine, 30 13 degrees of
Yeah.
alcohol,
So it degree,
which
is
is like,
that percent alcohol
oh
by
yeah,
volume?
exactly. No, yeah, we call it, alcohol degrees, but actually, yeah, yeah, basically it is the percentage, yeah, of
Okay, so
alcohol.
numbers are the same
Yeah,
both
yeah,
sides.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
13%. Nick, what do you think about 13% as a barley wine?
That will probably knock you on your ass a bit. Um, I know they usually do. Yeah, 13%. That's a doozy, because I mean, most wines are what, in the 15 to 16% range, anyways. So
Yeah.
at at that point, you're pretty much just drinking a bottle of wine or a bomber a
Yeah.
lot.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember the first much higher percentage beer that I got into was a barley wine by Sierra Nevada, Bigfoot. And when I had it, it was, I was young. I was a young man. I feel like a lot of people, when they first get into the craft beer scene, a lot of it is, ooh, look at, these are much higher ABVs and like that. And you kind of look at that before you start looking at, let's learn more about beer. So that Bigfoot barley wine was something that I jumped onto, and oh, look at this. It's like, I don't know, Nick, what is that one? Is that like 11%, 11 and a half,
I
something like that?
believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not even as high as the one you're talking about, Matteo. And it was, it was a little bit of I don't know, like syrupy. and thick almost, and so it was something I drank from time to time, but it was a little off-putting for me and hard to drink. How was the barley wine that you were having? Was it light? Was it heavy, syrupy? What? How would you describe it?
And actually, surprisingly refreshing. I mean, yeah, it felt kind of light. Of course, it wasn't. No, I actually just had a taste from the glass of my friend. The guy was just going around with a T-shirt written like "I'm getting married in a week. Please offer me a beer." And all the tables in the pub actually offered him a beer. So, like at the end of the evening,
Yes.
actually was, yeah, it was on
Excellent.
his knees, and yeah, but
Yeah, I feel like
yeah.
that's a big change. Nick, what do you think, Nick? As far as the bigger beers, just the way that we've gone away from, a lot of times with the higher percentage, getting away from that really heavy malty grain bill, and the ability to have these higher percentages that, as you said, Matteo, kind of feels light even though it has so much alcohol. Is that your experience, Nick?
Yeah, I would say the same. I There's definitely been plenty of like hazies that I've had, or even West Coast style IPAs, where, or in this case, they would be double or triple IPAs, and first sip, second sip, third sip, and you're like, like usually these are like nine, clearly 9% or higher, but they don't drink like, they're heavy on alcohol. They actually, that's the scary part, is especially where I've had a couple triple IPAs where you're like, oh, I could drink this all day long. But then like you think about it for a second, you're like, oh, this doesn't drink like 13 or 10, 11%, but you'll find out real quick in about two beers that you're not going to be drinking that all day long, if you're still standing. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and on that, with the doubles and triples and IPAs, and the IPA scene, the pale ale and IPA scene here has gone through a lot of changes and evolution. And I feel like I've actually talking to some people from other parts of the country, and out here on the West Coast, we're in a completely different path on those than I think a lot of the country is, to where, there has been that change of the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale and the Pliny the Elder Double Pale Ale as kind of the standard setters, very malt forward beers, both of them. And then there was the, advance into the super high IBU beers that we went to for a while. And I think there was also a lot of heavy malt to balance the bitterness and what have you. And then there's been that shift away, going towards the juicy, the hazy, also having a lighter kind of malt character. And then now kind of back to, the clear and West Coast style, but with lighter malt. And so there's a lot of changes that have been going on with the pale and the IPA, those hop forward beers. And what's it like for you, Matteo, in Italy, as far as those hop forward beers that you would call the American style?
Well, basically, I think we're just two steps back right now. I mean, hazies are starting now to into the market. Of course, very well welcomed by the people. I think there is a lot of interest. But you mentioned the Sierra Nevada. Actually, you're able now to find it quite easily in Italy, and I think that the public now is actually starting to deal with that kind of style.
Yeah.
Of course, craft breweries are already starting to experiment the next step, which is actually, yeah, indeed, hazies and juicy
Yeah.
IPAs. I'm looking forward actually to the next steps again, because I think they're probably no. You know what? The other actually, I think one of the biggest point is actually that American hops are not that much used in Italy.
Yeah.
Maybe small, very small breweries and younger breweries are more interested in American hops.
Okay.
But I think that like the most well-established breweries, the bigger and the most respected actually, still prefer a lot to go look for their hops in Europe.
Yeah. Well,
Like I know
would you
that
say like a lot of German hops, or I mean, what
Slovenian
are we looking at?
mostly.
Interesting.
Slovenian mostly, yeah. And I mean, Slovenia is like the kind of territory which is perfect for hops. So everything you just put there grows perfectly. And
Yeah.
they, of course, I mean, the fact that they're coming from Slovenia doesn't mean that they're like European style hops.
Okay. Okay.
But still, I think that like the influence of German style hopping is still very strong in Italy. And
What would you describe as the characters as far as taste, aroma, things like that, from the more European hops versus American hops?
more easygoing. I mean, not that, not that. I think that sometimes like American hops are so characteristics that they sometimes feel kind of harsh for the European tastes.
Okay.
But that is actually what I really like. And don't get me wrong, like the reason for which Birrificio Lambrate is my favorite brewery in Italy is not only because I mean they're like my local brewery, but because they started to experiment with American hops. I think 15 years ago already.
Yeah.
So they use a lot of actually hops coming, especially from the West Coast. And
Yeah.
now they're also starting to import hops from New Zealand.
Yes. We love those
So
New Zealand hops, man. Yes.
I'm curious to
yeah,
know that if they're starting to utilize cryo hops. I know Travis. We've talked about cryo hops recently,
Yes.
and it's basically a form of where they take that fresh hop and they flash freeze it, um, and it ends up becoming like a powder where it's maintained. In fact, from what I've read, it's more elevated aromas and flavors in the cryo hops. And I feel like because typically the thing behind hops is like everybody's excited about harvest time because that's when your hop is going to be the freshest. You'll start seeing a lot of beers get produced around that time just shortly after harvest to
Yeah.
maintain that keep all of that fresh hop character. But
Your fresh hop beers, your wet hop beers, things of that nature, where you're
exactly where
taking it
cryo
straight
hops
from the harvest into the kettle. Yeah.
exactly where cryo hops is able to maintain that and keep that for a longer period of time. So I'm wondering, and obviously it'd be a lot easier to ship cryo hops and maintain a lot of those hop characteristics. So I'm curious to see if brewers there in Italy and other countries over there where they typically aren't, I didn't realize that hops are grown in Slovenia. So that's kind of cool that you've got that sourced very close to Italy and the rest of Europe and everything. But I'm also curious to see if they're starting to utilize cryo hops that's coming from the U.S. or New Zealand, where they can create a lot more of those hop characteristics without relying on freshness of
Yeah.
from harvest time.
yeah,
Yeah.
some actually do. Yeah, I mean, I remember definitely that the Lambrate had a cryo beer. I think 2 years ago. Don't remember the name
Okay.
of. But I mean, they did. They actually did, not on a regular basis, but they did. What is interesting, I think, also is that right now, I think a lot of brewers in Italy are starting to realize that growing your own hop is probably key to have like a unique style and to find your niche
Yeah.
some way. When I traveled in Czechia 2 months ago, I was really surprised because of the fact that, I mean, of course, that the kind of territory is perfect for beer. Pils is actually a Czech city, and
Yeah.
some think that where it is actually where it all started. And also Bad Wieser is also a German Czech city. So
Oh, wow.
uh, yeah, I know. Like probably that you don't know. The there is a town called Budweiser in Czechia,
Wow.
and from which the American brand took the name, and they had some kind of legal dispute which lasted, I think, several years. And now there are two,
Crazy.
because yeah, exactly. And I mean, like the Pils or the lager style actually was born in Czechia. So I mean that kind of territory is perfect for beer. And I was really surprised because
That's so
actually the
funny.
craft beer scene there is really interesting, and almost every brewery have their own fields. They have their own crops. They grown their own hops and stuff. So And the water also is like perfect for brewing.
Yeah.
I think also in Italy they're starting now to realize that, because probably having your own hop is it's gonna be the key, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. It's so funny because we think of the American lager as having its roots in the German lager. That's basically the story that we are all presented with is these German brewers came over, they stuck through after Prohibition, and the American style lager is what prevailed and what we suffered under for so many decades until we had some great places like, well, I guess Anchor, always been around, Anchor Brewing, making their steam beer out there. And then we had some of these other places that stuck in and started with the craft back in the 70s, when I want to say Jimmy Carter changed the laws to allow more craft brewing and allowing home brewing, which I think got some people into it. But yeah, it was for the majority of our beer history. I feel like the American lager with roots in the German lager. So hearing that it's, all of this came from Czech styles is actually it's surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how the story went, really.
So
I mean,
you say there's more of the New Zealand hops coming in, and that there's not a lot of the American stuff. And Nick, you're up there in the Pacific Northwest, right? So we've
Yes.
got, I mean, our big four hops come from there, right? We got their
Yeah.
our Willamette, Cascade, Chinook, and can't remember the fourth one, but the four big C's
Citra.
coming out of the PNW.
Citra.
Citra, that's right. Yeah, coming out of the Pacific Northwest, beautiful hops that were such an essential part of the West Coast IPA and still are. Don't get me wrong; they're still here. But of course, the experimentation with the New Zealand style, getting a lot more of that fruit, the tropical, the berry, the melon, the stone fruit, things like that. So it sounds like in Italy, there's been kind of skipping over that danky, piney, resiny West Coast style and jumping right into the tropical, fruity style hops. Is that accurate?
yeah, yeah, looks like it. I mean, as I said, the good thing is at least that since we're not dealing with a big tradition, everybody feels free, to just jump around and start experimenting. I really don't know I mean, what actually the chain is behind these kind of ops getting to the Italian market. I really don't know. I never discussed that with the guys of the Birrificio Lambrate. Although I mean, of course, I'm a customer since the late '90s. So
Yeah.
sometimes we just chat and spend time together. But I never asked them how they came up with the idea of importing some hops from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Um, as long as it as the American hops are concerned, of course, I mean they travel to the US because I mean you have to deal with the scene in the US. Of course, you always have.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I really think that actually the whole craft beer thing actually is an American thing. I mean, of course, Europe has like a lot of tradition with beer, but the European approach until 20 years ago was kind of some kind of industrial commodity that
Yeah.
everybody has to keep in their fridge.
And they were
But
fairly basic, in terms of your
true.
styles and flavors. It was typically going to be like your pills or lager, and maybe like a dark beer here and there, but to be enjoyed during like winter months when it's colder. But
For 90% of the Italian population, actually, I mean, beer is just, the regular lager, and
yeah,
that's it.
yep.
And this is actually the thing that, like construction worker, they, stop working and they just open a can of beer, refreshing,
Yeah.
uh, slightly alcoholic, fizzy,
Yeah.
and that's it. Tastes like shit, no problem.
It's a quick pick me up to get you through the second half of the day.
Yes. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Nick, we always talk about one of your favorite styles is the brown ale,
Yep.
right? And is that something that you have, Matteo? I mean, do you guys have the brown ale? Are you familiar with it?
Yes, and I also, I mean, kind of like brown ales. As long as they're not too malty, yeah, can be an
Excellent.
option.
What I was curious about is, and something that we just discussed recently, talking to Jeff from Hidden Hills Brewing, is and given the region and everything that Italy has to offer, is are there any brewers out there experimenting with blending in terms of like wine or utilizing older wine barrels for aging specific beers that they're doing?
Yes, yes, there definitely are. Just to name one, so actually in my trail report, I said that there is some kind of big trees in Italy.
Yeah.
I keep talking about them actually. Lambrate, Italiano, Baladin. These were the first breweries to open in Italy, and the Birrificio Italiano, which probably is the oldest one of the three, and I must say probably their Pils is like the best Pils in the world.
Yeah.
Um,
Got to get my
um,
hands on it.
yeah. Well, they have a product line. They call it Klambarik, and they're actually doing that. They also using barrique barrels to age their beers, so they're
Okay.
getting all these tastes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. It's because Nick, a lot of times, what are the barrels we're using out here when we're aging?
Um, I feel like just your standard oak, but I feel like that's probably the most popular.
But doing
Each-
like bourbon and like that for used barrels.
exactly. Outside of that, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
What they're using specifically for wine. I know a lot of times wine, most places are, they're just using the stainless steel tanks and everything for fermenting and aging. But obviously there are specific more wineries that use specifically oak, I think, in some cases, or a mixture. I'm not well versed in that aspect with the wines, but typically with your whiskeys and everything and bourbons, they're going to be in oak barrels, charred oak barrels, that is.
Yeah. And with wine, you're are they charring the barrels with wine? They don't, right? You just use like a fresh oak, or do they char it like we do with whiskey, bourbon, and rum barrels before aging?
I don't think so.
Mateo, do you know about
Guys,
that?
guys, I lost you for a second. I don't know. The voice dropped for a sec.
Okay.
What was that?
So I was asking about the barrels, because here in the U.S., a lot of times when we have barrel aged stuff, it's coming from whiskey, bourbon, and rum barrels are a lot of time what they're using. So barrels from distilleries, and those are like a charred oak. And so we're wondering with the wine barrel age stuff that you guys have, is that something where they're using, is it like a charred oak barrel, or something like that? Because I don't know if they char the oak for wine. They don't, do they?
I think so. No, I think so.
Okay.
Maybe not in all the cases, but I mean, I'm definitely recall like seeing that happening. So yeah, sometimes they do. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so, yeah, and having obviously a wine barrel is going to impart different flavors than the bourbon barrel, which I think that's more common, isn't it, Nick, having the bourbon barrel age, but we're starting to see some of the wine barrel aged beers?
Yes. We actually have one local to our area in Oregon, place called Ale Song, that they're actually located right next door to a pretty massive winery as well. And they take their used barrels to age their sours in. So it's quite some delicious beers that they're producing.
Yeah.
And not just, sours, they have wild, and they do a couple of variation of a stout that they have that they age in barrels as well. But some wonderful things coming from them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It just basically the main wine barrels. I just looked it up real quick here. You have American oak and French oak where the American oak has a looser grain and kind of provides more robust flavors. The French oak has a tighter grain, and thus the flavors are a bit more subtler that it imparts, and kind of has more flavors of like spices, but kind of on a silky texture level. So I don't doesn't look like that they char their barrels. I think that's something specific to like whiskey and bourbon, which is also the charred barrel is imparting that caramel color to the whiskey and bourbons as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So what? So do. How is, I guess, how is the distilling industry there? Is it such that I would imagine you guys aren't producing a lot of whiskeys and bourbons, or are you? Is that something that those barrels are available to your
Uh,
brewers?
no, no, but we have grappa, which is I'm not definitely I'm not an expert, but it's distilled starting again from grape, I think. And of course, you can have like white grappa, which is basically not aged. But you can also have, yeah, barrel aged grappa, and of course, maybe, yeah, maybe that's why I see charring some barrels. Maybe it was actually for intended for grappa, not for wine.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, myself, I'm not a big fan of anything which is beyond wine in terms of, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not a real expert, to be honest.
So not
Yeah.
a fan of
Grappa.
limoncello either.
Oh yeah, limoncello. What are your thoughts?
No, no, that definitely not. No, definitely
No.
not. Oh no, all those kind. No, 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 no. I'm sorry, but no, no. Life has to be enjoyed with either wine or beer for me.
Nick's mother actually makes an amazing limoncello. Amazing. So good.
I believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, grappa is something that I kind of fell into for a little while, just learning about and understanding it. I think grappa is really a fascinating thing. It was um, generally after the grapes would be or the wine would be fermented on the grapes. Afterwards, it would be pressed, and then the skins that were left over, instead of just being discarded, would be given to. And I hate to use the word peasants, but this is the words that are used in the literature. Would be given to the peasant class. They would then take the grapes, mix them with sugar and water, and there would still be some wine left in the skins because pressing technology was very different then. So they would do a re-ferment and then they would distill. And so you would get the additional alcohol from the sugar that was involved, but then also some of the wine. And it would create that grappa, that really unique, unique characteristic distilled spirit. And I actually made some recently, or if anyone in law enforcement is listening, absolutely did not, because it's not something we're allowed to do. But for everyone else, totally did. I got some grape skins from a local winery, and it's so funny that when we press the skins today, the tools that we use are so efficient that you end up with basically like just completely dry skins. And so I did that. I had about a 15-gallon barrel full, which is, I don't know, in liters, that's somewhere around 60 liters for our international listeners, but about a 15-gallon barrel full of these completely dry skins. Dumped those into my 60-gallon barrel with 100 pounds of sugar, filled it up with water, and let them re-ferment. And they were Pinot Noir skins, which I'm not sure if Matteo, if Pinot Noir is a popular grape where you are. Very popular here in Monterey. So yeah, then ended up with about 60 gallons of this reconstituted, Frankenstein Pinot Noir, and ran that through, and it ends up making a really unique spirit, which I have for the past 2.5 years been meaning to put into my oak barrel. So it's just sitting in these glass jars. It could be aging. It's not. I'm wasting time that it should be in a barrel. But anyway, so that's my experimentation with grappa. And it's, yeah, I think it's a very interesting drink as far as the history. Yeah.
Well, it is actually very traditional. I mean, like traditional in Italy, after your meal, you're having a coffee espresso, of course, and then a small, yeah, a little shot of grappa,
Yeah.
traditionally.
So with the
Yeah.
amount
Yeah.
that you've made, Travis, once you've aged it and everything,
Yes.
based on taking a little shot after a meal, you should have enough to last for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I've got our lifetime supply covered, Nick. 100%.
Well, just to give you an idea of how I am not actually a fan of that kind of distilled drinks. A very good friend of mine gifted me a bottle of, one of those Scottish fancy whiskeys.
Yes.
I don't even remember the name, but like
I
one of the fanciest one out there.
I
Okay.
love it that you called it fancy Scottish whiskey. Here we call it Scotch.
No, I actually coming from Scotland, like from the Highlands and stuff. There
Yeah.
are, I don't know, like,
Lafroig, Lagavulin.
yeah, those
Um,
kind of
oh
stuff.
yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah.
And well, he gifted me the bottle, I think, well, 7 years ago when we moved in where we are now.
Yeah.
As a kind of good luck present for the new apartment and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, what's missing in the bottle is actually what we drank that night.
Yeah.
And all the rest is still there. So I think that the content of the bottle is actually already 30 years old because it was already 20 something when he gave me the bottle.
Yeah, an excellent gift from what you should consider a very good friend. Yeah, brilliant.
Excellent. So
Well, I was going to see if there's anything else that Nick, do you have any more questions for Matteo about how beer is going in Italy or anything?
no, I'm good. I'm excited to even more excited to go visit there, and hopefully, Matteo, we can link up, spend some time in Milan and have some fun, but
That
and
would be
experience
definitely
some
great.
great beers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely talk more of that later down the road, but for now, I think we're good. And I feel like
Yeah.
Mateo's probably like, I want to eat some delicious meatloaf. I know I would.
Yes. Oh
So
my, totally
Oh yeah, I
forgot.
guess my wife is. I
Meatloaf
think
getting
she's waiting
cold.
for me.
I feel bad now. But
No, no, I already forgot it actually.
but
But
yeah.
Matteo, do you have anything that you want to shout out on the show? Any social medias you want to plug? Any projects you're doing? Anything at all?
no, thanks. No, as I said, I'm like really the regular guy next door.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
No,
Well,
just one thing for Nick. Of course, any kind of travel advice you might need, just
Ap-
drop me a line.
I'll be reaching out to you for sure.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. I traveled my country all over. I mean,
And
I'm quite an old
likewise,
guy already.
whenever you're ready to
So
come back stateside, we will have all the information for you, at
looking
least as
forward
far
to
as the
that.
West
Actually,
Coast goes.
yeah,
So
yeah. We have it. We have it on our agenda. Sooner or later, actually, the
excellent.
West Coast has to be. Yeah,
Sweet.
Yeah.
that has to be
Absolutely.
done at some point. Yeah.
No, you have to, and we'd have a wonderful time. So much to see. Our country is, I think, roughly the same size as yours. Is that accurate? Same size population, same size square footage. No, it's a lot harder for us to be as intimately familiar with the whole country. But yeah, if you come out here, you want to do West Coast. Nick certainly has seen more of it than I have, but between the two of us, I think we can
We've been all
get you
over the
set
West
up.
Coast. Yeah.
That would be
So
great.
for sure.
Yeah. Where are you actually located, guys? Is that something you
So
can share on?
yeah, no, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Travis is in the Monterey area, which I feel like
Yep.
Monterey is a fairly popular area of California.
Yes,
That's
it
where
is.
the infamous Big Sur is.
Yes.
Beautiful coastline where you've got
Beautiful.
the Highway 1 Pacific Coast Highway. Some beautiful area there.
Yes.
And then I'm originally from San Jose, which is not too far. It's about an hour and a half north of Monterey.
Yes.
And now I'm living up in Oregon, just north of Eugene, or Eugene's still kind of a small city. So I'll just say Portland, Oregon. I'm about 2 hours south of Portland, Oregon.
Yes.
On the kind of the western side of Oregon here.
Yeah.
So I'm still only about like an hour and a half away from the coast, which we also have a beautiful coastline.
Beautiful.
But yeah, Oregon basically for the most part feels like you're just lots of trees everywhere, trees and mountains. So basically it feels like you're kind of camping all the time.
Yes, it does.
Not necessarily where I am, because it's, looks like your traditional US suburbia, but you go, 5 minutes west and we're up in the hills and trees and everything. So
Yeah.
we're in a
My
very
kind of
beautiful
place,
area.
definitely.
And then also, of
Beautiful.
course, Oregon is hop central.
Yes, it is.
Like
I know.
to the
I know.
east of me, we have the Cascade Mountain Range, which is what the Cascade hops are named after.
Yes.
And
Willamette Valley, the Willamette. I mean, it's just yeah.
So not only we didn't realize how big wineries are here as well. And in our particular area, like what Travis just said, the Willamette Valley, within 15-20 minute drive of our house, we have at least a dozen wineries. And so,
Sounds
and
good.
the big grape here as well is the Pinot Noir, or just Pinot grapes in general. So they produce some excellent wines, probably not as good as Italy or France, but I would say they're pretty dang amazing, at least from what I've had so far. In fact, our wedding that we just had recently back in April was at a winery that's about 10 minutes behind our house. So
yep.
Nice.
No, some great wines, also great beers, tons of breweries everywhere around here. It's a great area to live in.
And lots of American barbecue. So we will.
Yes, lots of it. Not as much as
Heaven for me,
Texas,
then.
but
Yeah.
but no, we've definitely got our good share of barbecue here. So yeah.
Well, Nick, tell everybody how they can reach us.
You can find us by going to hoppytrailspod.com.
Yep.
And that will take you to our Instagram, listen to some episodes, our Patreon. If you want to send us an email, however you want to reach out to us or interact with us, we're there. You can find us there, hoppytrailspod.com.
And we're little announcement, we're in the process of getting our YouTube channel set up. Probably by the time this episode drops, we'll have it there. For the most part, it's going to have all of our podcasts there as well, just as another channel, another outlet for people in case that's easier in whatever format. But we will start putting up some more content, maybe some videos, some of the stuff you see on Instagram we'll do in a little bit longer form and have it up there. And so just one more place that you can see us in between episodes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And now we have an episode, although this will be for our patron folk for who knows, maybe the short time, but we'll experiment here. But no, this is pretty cool. I'm excited to produce our first video podcast and actually share our pretty faces here. And then again, thank you, Matteo, for being two first for us, a video podcast, and for our first international guest. This has
absolutely
been amazing. I hope to do more, and especially do more with you. So
yeah, thank you, Matteo. It's been wonderful.
Guys,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you very much. Took me a while to get loose a bit, but
yeah, no, absolutely wonderful. And as we always say, always remember to say yes to the hoppy ending.
Always say yes.
Cheers.
Cheers, guy.
The preceding podcast was produced by Sequoia Productions, LLC, copyright 2022, all rights reserved. If you enjoyed this show and you're looking for more, or even if you're looking for something a little different, check out the other amazing shows by Sequoia Productions, wherever you get your podcasts, or on sequoia.com.
Hoppy trails to bruise until we drink again. Hoppy trails to bruise. Keep sharing with your friends. Who cares about which IPA tastes better? ABV are just a couple letters. Hoppy trails to bruise until we drink again.
You know what? I actually should have said. I should have said something like, "All right, well, let's take a quick break and come back and talk about beer." So I'm just gonna say that real quick, and then I'll say, "And we're back, and let's talk about beer," something like that. So give me just 1 second. I'll edit it. It's gonna seem like I nailed it perfectly, and everyone's gonna think that we're just amazing at this.
We're talking about
Okay.
we are.
Yeah, let's do it.